All right.
Hello, I'm John Ryan.
And I'm JD Orr, and this is the Faraway Island podcast, a USA Handball Talk.
It's not bad. I probably would have gone with like the Faroe fairy tale or something.
Oh, that's
But
good.
that's
That's
still
yep.
that's still pretty good. But yeah. Oh my goodness. What what a fun team they are to watch.
And not just that, just I mean, endless storylines with them. I went and did a little dive into average age of the roster and some of the key guys, and pretty much everybody on that team is that's making plays is under 25. Even you could even say under 21. So it's crazy, and they're all related in some capacity for the most part. So,
Yeah, so yeah, we'll delve right into our first topic is the fairy tale Faroe Islands. They came up short, but they all three games they were in it and they
yep,
tied Norway,
in
which
an
is just a
incredible fashion.
yeah, what an incredible they're just so fun to watch.
Yeah,
Um and they're such an underdog. I mean, everybody was all excited about Iceland, a tiny nation of 330,000 people, and here they are, one fifth the
yeah,
size. It's just incredible.
yeah. I had misquoted a stat. Somebody had said 100,000 people. It's 50,000 people, and there's 5,000 fans in the stands. So I was even crazier numbers. You know,
It
so
it is absolutely crazy. And the funny thing is I've been following them for a while. And um, in fact, I remember the first time I talked about Faroe Island handball. I actually played with and against somebody lives in the U.S. Who's played at the Faroe Islands.
oh oh geez. That I don't know
I'm
anybody.
thinking you know.
And
I
I
think you
you're
know
saying I know.
Mika.
Yeah, Manila.
Mika. Yeah, he actually. I remember him telling me a story that
Oh man,
I don't know if it
he was
was
my
some
coach.
youth tournament or some B team tournament, but he actually, went to the Faroe Islands. I don't know how he got on the topic. This is like 25, 30 years ago that we were talking about,
That's
him playing the Faroe Islands because they were roughly, Finland
yeah,
typically is a lower skill nation, but they've had handball for a while. It's just, I talk about the U.S. gold generation. I mean, they're platinum or
yeah. Elite Mastercard level. Like,
well, it's such a small. I mean, we've talked about the Iceland strategy. I say like, well,
mhm,
like Iceland is like two Colorado Springs
yep.
metropolitan areas. You know, they're like Faroe Islands is like seven. It's
Yeah,
just
it's a small suburb of Colorado Springs.
it, I, I don't know. I'm trying to think. 50,000 population towns in the U.S. It's just incredible.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't often get to go into, you always hear about the ugly American, like, Americans, they go over to Europe and they think everybody
Yep.
needs to do it their way. Well, you and I full well know the ugly European who comments on American handball and
Oh
says
yes.
like, "Yes, if I was an American, I would be on the national team and I would start for the national team."
Hmm,
Very,
hmm.
very annoying. Uh,
They're all over Twitter. So
they're all over Twitter. But here I go. I would have started on defense for the Faroe Islands. I may have started on offense for them. And before we go, like, oh, you're really being ugly, John.
hmm,
So would Jordan. So
yeah.
would Domaga Sursen. So would Paul Skrupa. So would uh, Patrick Hooter, Jordan
Yep.
Fithian, Antoine Bopp. I,
The list goes
I,
on.
the list goes on. Just first, and it's nothing against the guys that got playing circle runner, but um, that's a team with some glaring weaknesses. And if John Ryan is starting on defense for you, that's a glaring weakness.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a noticeable when you're watching the games with them, the size difference, I think, is a big thing. Like they're significantly, and there was a situation where Ollie Mitten got table topped, just because he's still a kid and he's out flying around. And, I think it was, I forget which game it was where he's going up for a shot and basically just gets an elbow kind of up high and just falls right down straight on his back. And he was down for the count, but just because he's so small and going against these big guys.
You play handball long enough, you know that height is not everything, but it's something.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And they are just small. And, if they had a few more, big bodies in there on defense, it would make a big difference. And that's what I saw. When I don't know if you saw the game against Poland. Poland just kind of beat him up. This Sipsack,
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Yep.
he's tough for anybody to handle.
Yep.
But
Yep.
when you're you know basically you're 6 foot going across the line, um, it's and here talk about the goalkeepers. That goalkeeper, the guy that used to play for Britain, he had the game of his freaking life, um, against Norway. I mean, he was
Yeah.
just, I, it's,
It's what you got to have if you want to take down Goliath. And yeah, it's one of those things too that you talk with the Norway people about. This is not the first time that they've had these kind of mental lapses late in the game. If you remember was it the Spain, was that third, that was a semifinal game where they had it pretty much locked up. And then they, get a passive call and then send it down. Who else is at the other end of the court? Danny Dushabayev for the score. And then Spain goes on to win it. You're just like, what are you guys doing? Like the same thing here. You're up by 2 with 20
well,
seconds left. Like,
if I'm Norway or Slovenia or another big nation, I'm like going, how are these guys hanging
yes,
with us? They shouldn't come down.
to,
We
the last
used to,
minute.
I played basketball, we used to call, let's get this game out of bullshit range.
Yeah.
Get a big enough lead that something crazy can't happen that you could maybe lose the game. Get a lead by 10, 15 points, and you don't have to worry about it. So in handball, that's a lead of, three,
I'd
four,
like to think,
five goals.
yeah, I was going to say 5. Yeah. So,
Um, and I guess where I'm going here is I've actually compared. I mean, this seems crazy, but I've compared USA handball to the Faroe Islands before, and it seems kind of bizarre. But if you look at particularly our men's national team now, we're like a geographically dispersed Faroe Islands. I don't know how many Americans live in Europe all over the place, and how many of them play handball, but it's probably less. There's millions of Americans living overseas, but there's not as many families living overseas
right. It's
and
individuals
having
on
kids
work.
grow up.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you were to like take all of the guys in Germany, Norway, and Spain, and conglomerate them, maybe it's a town of 25,000. I don't know. That's just a guess.
Yeah. But
Um,
but to your point, then it's like, you take those numbers and you look at what the Faroe Islands are working with. And I don't know if you watched, I think the EHF did a little docu series on Shipagatu and Ollie Mitten and kind of how they continue to develop their skills. And that's what it takes. And it's just having the access and resources to, a gym where that their dad owns, that they can just go into the hall and do handball stuff all the time. And it's something that we don't have that ability right now here. So
well, we have that ability. It just doesn't exist. I mean, it maybe does for other sports. And I talked about like there's a little town in Iowa called Norway. I mean, puny. I
yeah.
mean, the school doesn't even exist anymore. They even did a crappy movie about it the last season. Well, but they had a really good coach, and they over the years had three major league players come out of a tiny town of maybe 600 people. I mean,
Oh,
they
geez.
graduate
Yeah.
like 25 kids a year, and they only played baseball and basketball. They didn't play football or anything else. And really good coach. Everybody played baseball. Everybody pitched.
Yep.
Um, they didn't play they didn't play us because they would play like Cedar Rapids, Des Moines. You know, they would play the
Yeah.
big schools. Um, and when they would play like another small school, they would have like their I don't know their left
10th
fielder that
string.
never
Yeah.
yeah
Never pitched.
they're
Yeah.
absolute somebody that could just throw the ball over the mound, you know,
Yeah.
because they didn't want to waste a good pitcher on us. Um, but there's things you can do to take your very small pool and make it the best possible, but you're not always going to have a player like the skipper.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, he is a special player. Um, you could
I
you could
specifically told our guys in the group chat, I'm like, watch him play, but don't do as he does because you can't do it because everybody in America likes to make skip passes, and I tell the guys, I'm like, he makes a skip pass to the wing almost every other possession, and I was like, if you attempt this, the wing's gonna be taking a nap, it's gonna go out of bounds, it's gonna get intercepted, you're gonna just please like see his vision and understand like that's where we need to get to, but we're not at that point yet.
and the other thing I compare it to like Hoosiers. You know, he's the Jimmy Chitwood coming off the picket fence. You know, not saying that like Ollie Minton and
Yeah.
that wing Hackham or whatever. They're really good players too, but he is special. Um, and he would start for most teams. You know,
But yeah, he gets good time with Keel, I think. So, he's
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. But I guess going back to my point, you got that small of a group, you're gonna have you're gonna have holes. It's just
mhm.
it's they're always going to be fun to watch, but I don't yeah, and I don't want to rain on everybody's parade. They unless they've got some hidden 2 meter guys coming up, they are not going to be able to win a championship.
So let me ask this question. Since the Faroe Islands are owned by Denmark, what's the citizenship situation with that?
So that's an interesting thing. You know, if you look at like Great Britain,
Hmm.
which we're going to talk about later, if we don't spend the whole time
Yeah.
talking about the Pharaohs, um, they play, all of their team sports. You know, England, Scotland, Wales, and
Yep.
Northern Ireland. Although Northern Ireland sometimes combines with Ireland, they play individually in like soccer. Each of those teams
Hmm.
has a country that participates, but soccer in the Olympics they have to combine for Great Britain. So it's they do that for handball essentially as well. They have an English handball and a Scottish handball, but they already before that sport they decided, hey, let's just combine uh, for that. But technically, he's got Danish citizenship, and they had another Faroe Islands guy who was pretty good, who played wing for Denmark. I mean, maybe even still plays. I don't know, but he's like older.
Okay.
So that's a question. That's a good question. Whether they could say like, hey, you know, he's not going to go for the World Championships, but we're going to take him for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Um,
I
that would
guess I
be
was
interesting.
making more the point to the other way. Like there's some random Danish players that are big that see this problem and go to the Faroe Islands because they're not good enough for the Danish team.
You know, if Satchwell or Softwell or whatever his name is, plays for the Faroe Islands, and he was on that podcast with the Uninformed Handball Hour. He married a Faroe Islands girl.
Okay.
That's so.
Yeah.
Hey, take your best looking Faroe Island girls, and
Yep.
you know,
See what we can find.
Denmark's got,
Plenty. Yep.
Rasmus Boysen could come out of retirement and he could play for the Faroe Islands. They've probably got 20 pivots that could go play
Oh
for the
yeah.
Faroe Islands. And again, I am not knocking the guys that aren't the big three for that team. What they have tremendous team spirit. They're obviously working hard. They play in the lower leagues in Denmark and Norway. They're good athletes. They're just not special athletes. Okay. Um, and,
And I will
I don't want.
clarify because I got flack on previous episodes about, John and I are both saying here as a suggestion to the Faroe Islands as, hey, might need to beef up the roster here with is all we're getting at. So
It's obvious. Great heart can only take you so far.
yep.
It's there, and you know what I see eventually happening to them is take a look at North Macedonia. Also a fairly small country. I'm not sure what their population is, but you look at Kiro Lazarov, and um, they always are a tough team to play. But he was just he was starting to get worn down
Yeah.
because it's not like you're France and you can like have another guy come in
There's
for
a
you.
whole nother
Yeah,
starting six unit roll out there that would be
yeah,
dogs on
it's
any other team.
but
Shout out my
you know,
France jersey here.
yeah. So, what do you think? How would the U.S. do against the Pharaohs?
It's one of those matchup situations, like I think, Abu would probably have a good shooting day. Drew, we'd have a lot of pivot, it'd be a lot of pivot work, but I don't know that we are. I just feel like the agility would be an issue because it's one of
If
those
it's a
things. But,
problem for Norway and Slovenia, it'd be a
right,
problem for us
that's
for
kind of
sure.
that's my point. So I
But
I don't
that
know.
said, if you saw him play against Poland, and how they just they overpowered them with size. I mean, it was a close game, but Poland
Yeah,
pulled
yeah,
away, and that's the only game Poland won. Um, uh, wow, they're going to be a fun team to watch.
yeah.
Hey, I will love it, when they make it into the semifinals and get a medal. That will
Oh,
be
it's
just
it's yep.
awesome. Do I think it's going to happen?
Because think about this, if because that's why I was interested in the games yesterday, is that if they beat Poland and Slovenia were to have beaten Norway, then they would have moved on, right?
They would have had to make up 14 goals.
Oh, so you're saying because Norway would have gone on goal differential. Okay.
Yeah, Norway would have had to
Uh,
had a meltdown, and then they would have had to blow out.
okay.
It'd take a
Poland. Yeah.
combination of the two.
Okay.
Do I think they can make a main round? Yeah, I think they can make a main round. Do I think they can get two top slots in a main round to make the semifinals? No, I
It's a
I
tall
just
order.
that's a tall order. That would be incredible, but I just don't see it. So, all right, that's one miracle. But you know what?
Yes.
We're going to talk now about the other miracle, and arguably,
Across the pond.
arguably the greater miracle.
No pun intended.
I'm trying to get this on the screen here. What am I doing wrong?
While John's getting that locked and loaded, for those that weren't able to tune in or didn't know what was going on, Great Britain was having a home and home with Kosovo to
Here
get
we
a
go.
bid for last was it a last chance qualifier or because it was for Euros for 2025, no, Worlds for 25.
Look at the emotion there.
Look at the fans. You got a packed house.
I I was, I'm not British. I got goosebumps while I was watching this.
And that's what, I think,
You
looking
can't see
back
it.
to some of
They have
the,
full stands on all four sides here.
yeah, that's just, it's crazy. I mean, I think even the games that we had in Auburn against Canada and I don't know. Well, you were there. What did you say? You think we probably had 100 people in the stands at best?
Well,
Look at this.
it's
Jeez. Yeah.
so I'll go. They had a huge flag that they showed. Was that they? So you got stands on both sides.
So the one question I didn't ask and is just, who's paying for this? Because like this is no joke. I mean, they got advertisements around the border. They got, advertisements on the corners. They got the whole shebang here. I mean, this is a very well put on event.
From top to bottom. I was like watching this, like going, I don't know if you saw my tweet. I said like, whoever did this, um, you know, get him a on the spot uh, promotion or on the spot pay increase.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is a tweet,
Yeah.
and it got 33 likes. That's a pretty good amount for me.
Eh, yeah.
Um, and Xavier O'Callahan, who's with the former club
Barca.
handball
Yep.
Barca, former Barca player, retweeted it. Because I think he knew too. Okay. That does not happen in
No.
a in a
Non-handball
non-handball
country.
country.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Um, I, I was just blown away. I you know that yeah, Auburn had more people than that. Part of it's the staging, it's the presentation. If you put it in a cavernous
Right.
arena that's due to be demolished,
Yep.
is going to look like one thing. If you put it in a smaller arena and you put the right amount of stands on each side for how many people you think you can get there, it can look
Then
pretty damn good.
yep. Yep.
Um, and I was going back through time. Now, obviously, at the Olympics, we had a good atmosphere. All
Yeah.
right,
Where were those games in Atlanta? Where were those played?
they were at the World Congress Center. It was like a makeshift stadium
Okay.
in a convention center,
Okay.
but
All right.
it was well set up. All the games were close to sellouts if they weren't sellouts, depending on who was playing. Um, and it was a pretty good atmosphere. I mean, it's the Olympics, okay, but non-Olympics. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you saw the games at Auburn. You saw the game up in Lansing, Michigan for USA
Yep. For
Canada.
the women. Yep.
You know,
The
yeah,
games in
hey,
Greenland was another one that the Greenland fans they showed up for. So
yeah.
uh,
Well, again, that doesn't impress me. That's
the
Greenland.
Danish.
They love
Yeah.
handball there. I
Yeah.
know they don't have that many people, but hey, they're not a whole lot to do there. It's their top sport.
Yeah.
Doesn't
It's
surprise me
cold.
that they filled that up. But England, Durban, England, filling that up, you got to be kidding me.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't know the whole story. I've sent some emails to say, hey, I want to interview the guy that put this together because this is incredible. We have not. Many have tried. And I will. So the Olympic festivals had decent crowds, but it was kind of it wasn't like that atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
USA played Brazil in 1996. They did it. That was kind of a smart move. They did it in conjunction with the national championships. So you at least had like, I don't know, 500 some
Yeah.
people.
The athletes were already there. Yep.
Yep. So they played in a nice, pretty good sized arena, and it was on ESPN.
Oh.
Um, wasn't live, but it was taped. They
Okay.
actually had a deal. The Olympic Committee had a deal with ESPN that they would have to broadcast one thing from every sport. Uh, in order to get like the track and field time trials, they had to
Uh-huh.
show handball. And so they did.
Hmm. Okay.
And we played Brazil. pretty decent atmosphere. The match in Chicago, that was a decent atmosphere. The U.S. played Los Angeles beforehand. Wasn't very many people in it before the Poland Germany game.
Yep.
Um, the infamous
The
Coupe de la
Miami,
Ligue in Miami.
yeah.
That was just the absolute. That was
Yep.
a perfect example of not the right
How
size
things
venue.
go wrong here. Yep.
New
Uh,
York City. New York City had their New Year's Eve thing.
Big Apple. Yeah.
I don't know how many of those were Germans that flew over to want to see the ball drop, but they had it in a smaller venue, so it did look better.
But again,
Um,
optics is the number one thing here for us is
what
that,
is the best optics I have ever seen for a non-handball nation?
and
I
the camera's at the right level, so you never see like that there's more, potentially even more seats beyond
So
where the
yeah,
top row is. So
if you go through the video, I'll put a link in the
recap.
podcast
Yeah.
notes that you can play around with it. There's stands on the same side as the cameras too. They didn't move everybody
They,
over just to
yeah.
one side. Um, yeah. Oh, here's a point that I wanted to make. Have you ever talked to Europe and they said like, "Hey, I'm gonna go visit JD in Ohio. I'll swing on by and visit you in Colorado."
Yeah. It's like, no, you won't. It doesn't like Andreas
They have no
from the national
concept
team. He
of
was doing a
distance.
California. He was doing this big, U.S. road trip, and I was like, "Hey, yeah, come, if you're driving around." And he's like, "Oh, we're doing this, this, this." I was like, "You're never gonna make it to me," like, because he was talking about that's not gonna happen.
So
But
I remember I was in the UK and I was talking to somebody and they were like talking about this big long drive that they had to do. So down there at the bottom, there's where the Pirates of Penzance were, and up in the top is Inverness, Scotland. Pretty not.
yeah,
I didn't go all the way to the Shetland Islands, but so
still, that's way
that's a
further than I would have thought you were. If you told me what the length, drive
12 and a half
was,
hour drive.
yeah, that's crazy.
I did that all the time. I did it a couple times this summer. You know, Brooklyn, Iowa to Colorado Springs,
Yeah.
Colorado, 12 and a half hours. Colorado Springs to Las Vegas, 12 and a half hours. Yeah, it's like, so the match was played in Derby, which is like right around here, I think, somewhere around there.
Oh, that's pretty far from London still.
It was like a 2.5 hour drive from London,
Okay.
but you know, and looks like we're running out of time, but um, it's not that far. And somebody must have because they had a lot of youth there too. I
Yeah.
saw some things on social media um, that that people uh, they organized it. They had a good plan to get people to there. And I think if the U.S. wanted to do something like that, because the entire country is not a 6 hour drive from the middle,
Yeah. Not
right?
even close.
Right? Um,
You go 6 hours from the middle, you're still not touching anything.
about the only time you could do it would be with a national championship tournament. And then you have the issue of like, okay, well, we need to have everybody go stop playing for 3 or 4 hours to go watch this match. And
Right.
if it was an important match, I think people would want to do that already. But that's a podcast we still need to do about sticking a fork in the weekend tournament format.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but it's much harder for us to get a critical mass in one area like that.
Yep.
And I think most of the people there were handball people. I don't know. That's a good question for
Uh,
me to ask.
I'll send a message. I don't know if you're Facebook friends or not with the coach for Great Britain, Ricardo. I'll send him a message because he was hyping it up for weeks prior, both the away and home match.
Yeah. I'm friends with him, and like he retweeted what I sent, and I know the chair of British handball. I did a thing with him when he was with Scottish handball, so I just
Okay.
haven't
So
linked
yeah.
up with it.
Yep. Yep.
And I
Yep. Yep.
actually, I hope the coach wasn't involved with the day to day management, getting that order. hey, get everybody
And
helping, but
yeah,
whoever was in charge, I mean, we talk about like, hey, let's get a European to come run USA handball. You know the European I want? I want
that's
the guy that ran that tournament.
yeah. Like holy cow! Because I'll tell you this much: when we went to Ireland and we had
Perfect
that Tri
example.
Nations tournament, that
I
was no
saw it on
different than any tournament that I've ever ran here. And we were still putting tape down 20 minutes before the game started. We were, trying to find people to work the table. I mean, this is an international game, and it's the same song and dance we deal with at the club level here.
and I've seen other UK, Great Britain events, whether national team or club team, that look kind of like a USA tournament,
Yep.
kind of strung together. And obviously that wasn't the case there.
No.
I was like,
No.
what am I watching here?
Yeah.
So
Got good group of people that are really into it, and that's what you need. So,
I feel it had to be more than that. It had to be good planning. They had to have a good plan to do that. And like I said, England is it's a different can of worms than the United States, but
oh yeah.
we struggle with many of the same problems. Like I said, they don't have the size disadvantage. They're a lot closer to European, continental Europe.
Yep.
Um, Speaking of which, I guess we got a few minutes to chat a
Touched
little
upon a
bit
hot topic there. Yep.
about the U.S. men's team.
So they're
Um,
hanging out in Norway. I think they're northeast of Oslo, I believe, with Drammen and oh man, I can't remember the other clubs that they're playing against.
Hammerfell or
Blanking.
something like that.
Yeah, I looked them up. The one was a perennial, top three, never
It-
first
yeah,
place.
they lost
And
36-23 to Jarman.
yep,
Um, here's a photo I shared with you yesterday.
filled
I've
out the
been able to
names. That's
identify
good.
everybody, but so the tall guy next to Drew is Tristan Morawski's brother. At least
Oh,
that
I
was the
didn't know he had a
suggestion that was
brother.
given.
Holy
I
cow. Oh,
yeah. Uh, and that was a suggestion. I don't these names
well, he's okay
aren't
because that would make him what, like 15? I mean, Tristan's, I guess maybe he's in the 17.
so I don't know who
I
the
don't know.
guy next to
Okay,
Donlin is, but he's pretty good sized. Nobody had a clue on the guy in between him and
next to
Ian
him.
Hooter.
Okay,
But you can see a mix of
young and
standby veterans and some of the younger
yep,
guys getting together. So um, I tournament. I sent an email to USA Team Handball, wanted to know if we'd find out anything more about it. I,
yeah,
I found out on social media, and then I did a little digging around. And I saw the one report from uh, Drammen team that
yep.
beat us. So they're right behind uh,
Kolstad.
Holstad and Elverum. So they're a pretty good team.
Yep. Yep.
Um,
And I mean, historically, they've been in the top three for a long time.
yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, it's one of those. I talked to Sebastian Wheeler. He's, playing over there and not far from where this is going on. And, I was trying to get some inside scoop from him, and he told me a little bit about the team that they're playing against and that they'd be pretty steep competition. At least Drummond would be. And Roger Meyer, our other handball friend, he's yeah, I texted him for a little, recap of how the games went, and he never got back to me on it. So, it's just kind of it happens. You got to be in the club to know, and you and I, John, are not in the club.
Yeah,
So,
it just seems to me that this might be of interest to other people in the U.S. handball community.
yep,
Just
yeah,
me thinking
just
that.
simple as that. Just trying to get stuff to talk about.
If you Instagram posts,
Yeah, promote the club, promote the team. As I told some people, is that people want to get to know these guys if they want to support them. You can't, you look at when we have these World Cup runs for soccer and things like that. There's all these deeper dives into the players. You get to know them. That way they kind of become your family. And so that's one of those things that we were looking at this picture, we don't even know one of the guys in the picture, and it's kind of frustrating because it shouldn't be that way. It should be US Family should be all up and cheering and supporting these guys and making sure everybody knows their name. So
Uh, and I see one name there. Glad to see he's back practicing with the team. Alex
which
Chan.
one? Yeah, we got the passport situation all
So I
taken care
assume
of.
the passport
So,
situation has been fixed.
that's good.
One can hope. So
Yep.
that's a good thing. And it's great for this team to get together and get some good training in. Like I said, I think other than Drew Donlin and maybe the two guys that we don't know about next to him, uh, maybe everybody else is already there in Europe. So kind of like what we talked about.
I think it's a
Um,
safe assumption that the two other guys are in Europe. Otherwise, we would definitely know who they are if they were based
yeah,
here.
he's gonna show up for Johns Hopkins and is
Yeah.
gonna shock the world at nationals.
Balling out, leading this team 25 goals a game. Well, they
Uh,
won every game by one with a score of 25-24. Weird. So just pass the ball to this guy.
well, we've got more European handball competition. Oh, one other thing. So I post the video on YouTube earlier than I post the MP3 and do all the social media. So if you want to get an earlier uh,
Jump.
jump on this, subscribe to our YouTube channel or go to our YouTube channel because I usually get that posted a little bit sooner than the other work. But plenty of more great handball coming up though for the next 8 days.
Oh yes.
So we got
Oh
we got
yes.
3 matches a day, and well, I know my time. It'll be like 7:30, 10 o'clock, and 12:30 every day for me in Mountain Time Zone. So 9:30, 12 o'clock, and 2:30.
It's good for the Eastern folks.
Good for the Eastern Time Zone folks. Lots of great handball. Um,
There was a
lots
lot of
of
good games
lots.
today too, specifically. I
Oh,
mean, there was a lot
absolutely.
of close battles, and
Yeah.
I've been talking with a lot of people in Germany. Their maybe
JD,
hopes are a little
we're
high.
gonna run
So
out of time here.
yep, sorry.
So for JDR, I'm John Ryan, and thanks for listening.
Ciao. Good stuff.
You find the recording stop button. Where is it?
Down in the middle.